Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, our guest today is Agriculture and Industry Commissioner John McMillan. Also, the V Team takes a look at the ethics complaint filed against Attorney General Luther Strange. Hold your hands up. Mike Hubbard wants your money. Don't move and nobody gets hurt. Right, Mike? All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to the Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by the V Team. Welcome all.
Hello.
Good
Thanks for having us. Good morning, as Claire says.
Well, it's nice to see you over there.
On this
where
fine
Claire
Sunday
is.
morning, I just took my kids to church.
Jack, you are a character.
Sometimes.
Caricature?
This week in politics, we find that Luther Strange, the Attorney General, has had an ethics complaint filed against him as a result of this case out of Greene County. You know all about this, don't you, Sherlana?
I do, and let me give you my standard disclaimer. I represent Green Track, and I have been involved in the case from which these facts arise. And there was an ethics complaint filed against the Attorney General because there were two agents and a consultant who worked under him who were indicted by a Greene County grand jury. And the reason that the folks in Greene County are very upset about this is because this is not the first time that the Attorney General has stepped in and tried to take over the activities in Greene County. They've negated a constitutional amendment that authorized bingo, and that's what this issue relates to. They've removed a circuit judge, they've removed a district judge, and now they have removed the district attorney who had presided over the prosecution of this case.
Now, to get this straight, and Barron, you've covered this too, these three individuals are accused of lying and perjury to obtain a
search warrant
for Green Track. Is that what you understand?
And let me say this too, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but there were two other facilities that were involved.
Okay.
Yeah. In short, the question that everybody has, and I think the basis of this ethics complaint, is it proper for the Attorney General to remove a case against people he was supervising? They were basically working under his direction, maybe not directly under his direction, but they were working to accomplish his end, which was to shut down these casinos. That's what was going on. He was wanting to go into the casinos and execute a search warrant and figure out if these machines were illegal. He used the testimony those people were providing to the court, and they were later indicted, I guess. I mean, that's what happened. They were indicted for perjury based on that information, and now he's taking it and moving to dismiss the case. He's taking over the case and moving to dismiss it.
Did not the judge in this case, wasn't he appointed or requested by Luther Strange?
He was. The circuit judge who presided over the search warrant and over the later case and what was supposed to go to trial last month was specially appointed by the Alabama Supreme Court. And so this is an issue where you have someone who's from outside the circuit who decided that these agents had lied to him under oath. And the judge was the only one present in the chambers when he took the testimony from them for the search warrant.
Jack, this doesn't pass the smell test, does it?
Not at all. Not at all. I'm not a lawyer, and it doesn't pass the smell test. I mean, it looks pretty shady.
Yeah.
And the biggest complaint, though, is that the Attorney General, because he was directly involved in this, shouldn't be taking over a case that involves the prosecution of people working under him, that he should have recused.
Well, he's the king of recusal. I'm surprised he didn't.
Well, he's recused himself in several big cases.
Yeah,
of course, the Lee County grand jury.
Lee County and the ASU case. I mean, I don't think we elect people to recuse. We elect people to be the chief prosecutor. That's what he does.
Well, this is going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. Fortunately, it's getting some media coverage now.
It is. It's taken a couple of weeks for that to be the case. The first time I read about the story was in the Greene County Democrat.
Right.
And then only in the last couple of days this past week have we seen the Montgomery Advertiser and AL.com pick up on it. But I think it's an important issue to the folks in Greene County.
Well, this Ethics Commission under Jim Sumner would have never done anything. We don't know what it'll do because we've got an interim or an acting ethics commissioner or director appointed. And talk about that, Barron.
And I think John Carroll's a good choice. He was the dean of Cumberland Law School. He was a federal magistrate. He's, not too far right, not too far left. I think the one thing most people did not want was to see a political operative, not a lobbyist, not a legislator in that slot. And that's what you get here, is not a political operative.
Have you worked with him before at all?
Well, and let me give that disclaimer. I have appeared before Judge Carroll when he was a federal magistrate. He was there for 14 years, and I graduated from Cumberland Law School. He was not the dean while I was there, but I'll say this about Judge Carroll. He always struck me as being extremely fair. He will be the person that I talked about earlier a couple of weeks ago, that I thought that they should be looking at a retired judge, because he does not bring the sort of political baggage that other folks bring. He's been involved in some very high-profile, complex civil litigation cases when he practiced. He was also involved in a bunch of death penalty cases, and he's a Marine fighter pilot. I mean, so he is not going to be easily intimidated, and as a federal judge, a federal magistrate judge, he's not going to be easily intimidated. He's not going to worry about the politics of things. This I see as sort of the way that he winds down his legal career.
Jack, this is such an important job. I mean, we've just seen the Ethics Commission, at least the director,
it's a toothless tiger, because the people that work there don't make it what it could be, a real ethics commission. They never look at a report once it's filed. They never call people and say, you've got a problem with your finance report as a candidate. They don't do anything. They just sit there and collect a paycheck and advise people. And I like Hugh. Hugh Evans is a good guy. I think Sumner's been ineffective, and I'm happy to see John Carroll. He has a pretty stellar reputation. I think he'll be good.
One of the things, and you're an expert on some of these things, our show, The V, and the Alabama Political Reporter has sent a formal request to Parker Griffith and Governor Robert Bentley to hold a debate on this show. Parker Griffith campaign has already agreed. We are yet to hear from Governor Bentley. What do you think are the pros and the cons of that debate?
With Bentley being, as I heard earlier in the week, 28 points ahead, I'm not sure what he gains. I mean, I'd love to have him on the V, obviously, but I'm not sure what he gains by having a debate with Parker. Although I think he'd be good. I think it'd be good for the people of Alabama. But politically, if I'm advising him, I'm not sure I would tell him to do it.
We got about 30 seconds. What's your thoughts, Sherlana?
I tell you, as a constituent, I would love to see, these are two very bright men. They're both doctors. They've both been involved in politics for a long time. I would love to see them debate, but if I were the advisor to Governor Bentley, it's his race to lose. I don't be put in a forum where I have to answer for anything.
Well, we've asked. Parker said yes. We're waiting to hear from Governor Bentley. You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. Our guest today is John McMillan, Commissioner of Agriculture and Industry. Stay put. We'll be right back.
The V is sponsored by Spot On Strategies Group.
Welcome to Alabama's newest entertainment destination, Wind Creek, Wetumpka. The perfect escape for date night, a getaway with your friends, or a relaxing poolside cocktail. Whether it's a day trip to enjoy the best steak in Alabama or a romantic weekend, the finest Southern hospitality is just a short drive away. Wind Creek, Wetumpka. Find your winning moment.
preventing wildfires. That's all Smokey wants for his 70th birthday.
I teach. I touch the future. I am AEA.
I keep the school clean every day for your children. I am AEA.
Congratulations on your scholarship. I help children make choices for college and careers. I am AEA.
We are AEA.
Welcome back to The V, the voice of Alabama politics. Our guest today is Agriculture and Industry Commissioner John McMillan. Commissioner, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Bill. Pleasure to be with you.
Over the last 4 years, you've really had your work cut out. I mean, Agriculture and Industry Commissioner is a huge job, and you came in at a time when the state was really suffering for money. You've turned this thing around. Tell us about the progress that you've made over the last 4 years.
Well, Bill, we have, I feel now, stabilized the organization thanks to a few good folks I surrounded myself with, and also to the professional employees that are there. We had significant layoffs and significant budget cuts. We've tried not to spend, we haven't been able to spend too much time looking in the rearview mirror because that'll get you in trouble with where you're trying to go. But we have, and I also need to give a lot of credit to Governor Bentley and the legislature. They really have done everything we've asked them to do in the way of helping us change legislation and make some changes in our weights and measures, responsibilities, for example. So things are going pretty well, I think. I think with the resources, both fiscal and personnel that we've got, we're about as good a shape as we could possibly be in.
One of the things that you've worked on is strategic planning. You've brought a lot of parties together to get a real plan together for the state. Can you tell us a little bit about what that's about and how you went about getting that done?
Yes, I will. And Bill, let me say as a follow-up to your first inquiry, we have reached a point now where I thought we were going to be when I got here. We're beyond crisis management, I say, and looking forward. So that's one of the first things that we did was set up a strategic planning session with about 20 stakeholders that we're involved. And that's just on the ag side. That's not in counting a lot of the other things like food processors and pesticides and chemicals and those kind of things. And there's about 20 of those stakeholder groups. But we got together, had a day-long session in Montgomery trying to take a 30,000 look view at everything globally as well as in this country and this state, and then task those stakeholder groups with going back and making recommendations to the steering committee. And we just this week are getting those all those recommendations back, and the steering committee will be looking at them and refining them and coming up with our final draft.
You mentioned globally. I know that you have really looked at expanding Alabama markets outside of our state. Could you tell us a little bit about what you've done in that area?
I can, Bill, and this is something that's a big challenge and a great opportunity. I really feel like in Alabama and beyond, we are entering a golden age in agriculture, particularly with the food, the direct food, like produce, for example. Let's just stick with that. This year in California, because of the drought and water competition out there, they're planting 800,000 acres less of produce in that one state. That demand for produce and the supply is going to have to move to the southeast, where generally we have the water resources, or a lot of it, and this has been going on for about 20 years, moving to Mexico.
Yeah. Well, we want as much of it as we can get here. We don't, California is like a foreign country to many of us down here in Alabama. One of the things that sort of has been a underreported story is your involvement when we have a natural disaster like the hurricanes we've had. Your office has really had to go into overdrive during those periods, haven't you?
We really have, Bill, and that was the I guess that was the third crisis, in addition to personnel and finances, was the terrible tornadoes that we had in Alabama. And our people were responsible for getting out our food safety inspectors and our state veterinarians and attending to the disposal of millions of pounds of frozen foods, meats, and others that we lost, particularly in the TVA areas, Madison County and up in there. And then the poultry industry is so concentrated in North Alabama. We had millions of chickens that had to be disposed of primarily through burial.
Well, it's one of those things that is a devastating event. The tornadoes, what we usually see is the loss of life, and of course that's our first priority, loss of property, but we forget that the food is, you know, the animal, the livestock are all affected by these terrible events.
Yes, sir, and those are important to us consumers and people that enjoy good food.
Absolutely. One of the things that's come up recently, and it's caused a bit of a stir because people don't understand it, is you've been assigned the job of looking over what we're now calling surveillance system, aerial surveillance system.
Unmanned aerial systems, yeah.
So can you tell us what that is and what it's good for?
Well, it had gotten to the point so that every time I was online or picked up an ag publication, there was something in there about unmanned aerial vehicles.
Right.
So seeing the progress that's being made and the rapid technology, I set up an informal meeting with some of the state agencies that I felt like would be most drastically involved in trying to deal with this issue, including law enforcement, DOT, and conservation. We had just an informal meeting, and I had to miss it because of family emergency, so they nominated me to contact Governor Bentley and recommend setting up this task force, which he did. And he did the right thing, we did the right thing, and now we have just had our initial meeting and really seriously broken up into subcommittees and starting to really work on this rapidly expanding technology.
Well, from what you were telling me, this is something that will not only help farmers and ranchers and law enforcement, it's good for all business.
It's just an amazing thing. I've learned more about it in the last couple of weeks than I ever dreamed I would even know. But it's just fascinating what's going on and how fast it's happening. And we got quite an agenda and quite a challenge to get our arms around this in Alabama.
We got about 30 seconds left. You're planning on being the commissioner for the next 4 years if you get reelected. Any thoughts on that?
Just one primary thought, Bill, if I'm fortunate enough to be reelected, I'm going to focus a lot of time on increasing the knowledge of the citizens of Alabama about the importance of this agency. I really, after the time I've been there and the time I've been around state government, believe that behind the governor and attorney general, this is the most important position in the state.
It is a very important position that people don't know a lot about.
You're right.
We know everyone thinks you've done a great job. We want to thank you for your service to the state.
Thank you. Appreciate you letting me visit with you.
Our guest today has been Agriculture and Industry Commissioner John McMillan. You're watching The V. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The V is sponsored by MediaWorks Communications Video Production Services for all your video production needs.
Welcome to Alabama's newest entertainment destination, Wind Creek, Wetumpka, the perfect escape for date night, a getaway with your friends, or a relaxing poolside cocktail. Whether it's a day trip to enjoy the best steak in Alabama or a romantic weekend, the finest Southern hospitality is just a short drive away. Wind Creek, Wetumpka. Find your winning moment.
I make sure to get your kids to school and home safe every day. I am AEA.
I make sure your child receives a healthy meal each day. I am AEA.
Thank you, AEA, for protecting our public schools and our futures. We are AEA.
Hey everybody! Heart disease affects 1 in every 3 women in America, but you can fight back. There's no time to lose. Mothers, sisters, daughters, families, and friends, it's time to shout louder, stand stronger, and demand change. Let's go!
To the Batmobile!
Dang it. To the invisible jet. Dang it. Together, we can put an end to heart disease. It's time to go red for women. I could use your help. Yeah! Learn more from the American Heart Association at www.goredforwomen.org.
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. Today we're joined by Susan Britt, my wife.
Hi, guys.
Morning, Susan.
Nice
Morning.
to have you.
Glad to be here.
This past week, Speaker of the House, Mike Hubbard, held a fundraiser for storming the State House packed. However, this is kind of putting the damper on his fundraising abilities. What about it, Barron?
Well, there have been a lot of rumors the last few weeks that things are lessening and that he may actually wiggle out of this thing after all. And I think a lot of that was set up to set up some of these fundraisers. I don't think this will be his only fundraiser, but his campaign account, which went through nearly $1 million during the primary, is now depleted. It needs to be refreshed, not for the purpose of campaigning, but as you've pointed out and reported on extensively, to put into his legal defense fund. And that's where this money's going. If you donate to Mike Hubbard now, it's going to Mike Hubbard's lawyers.
He spent a lot of money on his defense out of his campaign finance account.
And the reports that came out this week shows that he spent, I think, $10,000 just this last month. Again, I think it's close to $200,000 now.
And that went to Lance Bell, who used to work for Van Davis, who is the special attorney general in this. Jack, you know a lot about fundraising. I mean, Hubbard's desperate, isn't he?
I'm not sure. I think he's probably in denial about all this myself.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't understand how the lobby in Montgomery continues to give to him with this black cloud hanging over his head. But he's arm twisting people. And you know what? I've talked to some lobbyists. They are scared not to give to him. And that's not the way to govern. That's not the way to preside over a body, is to control people out of fear. And if you don't believe it, go back in history and look at the people who punished those who didn't agree with them. They didn't stick around too long.
Well, that's the exact reason for all these rumors, because it keeps the people that donate to him in constant fear of what if he does get away with this, then where am I going to be if I don't show up and give him my
giving
check?
softball interviews to AL.com about, oh, this is a witch hunt. It's not a witch hunt. It's been going on for a year because there's something there.
Well, there's no doubt there's something there. The biggest thing that has people concerned is just this behind-the-scenes playing with justice. And we can't handle this in our state, can we, Susan? We've got to get honest about doing the law and doing the right thing.
Right, even down to the Kevin Turner thing, which I was telling you this today in the car. It's like Kevin Turner should be filed even for just the appearance that he may have been interfering. I mean, this stuff's got to stop. This fear, this tampering, all these rumors, it's got to stop somewhere.
Luther Strange has been the Attorney General for almost 4 years now, and I happen to like Luther Strange as an individual. We've had lunch with him. We've known him for a number of years. Nice man. However, he has had to recuse himself from several cases. Joe Hubbard, who we had on as a guest, is running against Luther, and he says that Luther has been absent. He has misplaced his priorities. What do you think about this, Jack? Does Joe Hubbard stand a chance here?
I've heard of some polling data that I haven't seen that shows that it's within striking distance, at least. I have an opinion about the Attorney General, which I said earlier, recusing himself or herself from major cases or major investigations. And I think because of that, I think what Joe Hubbard's saying might be resonating with some people who are following this with any kind of degree of clarity.
Barron, you've known Joe for a long, long time. You know his character. You know how he operates. He's a big campaigner. I mean, he really knows how to campaign, doesn't he?
He's an aggressive campaigner, and he's never going to take an opportunity to get a little free earned media. That's a reality. Joe likes to talk, and people generally, I think, like to hear what he has to say. You mentioned the recusal situation. That's something that Joe has focused on, talking about that. If you go back and listen, as I have done recently, to Luther Strange's 3-minute video where he announces his run for Attorney General back in 2010, against incumbent Attorney General Troy King. Half of the video is made up of Luther Strange saying it's inexcusable that you would have an Attorney General recusing himself from corruption investigations, that's just something that's not going to happen under his watch. Yet the two most important in corruption investigations in the state right now, ASU and Mike Hubbard, Attorney General Strange has recused himself.
Well, I agree with your point on recusal. It does not actually mean refusal. He has given a lot of resources to Matt Hart, hasn't he, Susan?
Yes, he has given a lot of resources of his office and all the things that he needs, the personnel and backup to go forward with this case. And quite honestly, like Van Davis, because he's just not going to back down. He's not going to be scared by anybody.
Well, it's a tough situation. I think that Joe is a heck of a campaigner, and I don't know that Luther is. I don't know that he's got the oomph out there on the trail. Do you think so, Jack?
I didn't really follow him in 2010 against Troy King. He doesn't appear to have the fire in his belly. He's really not showing up. We have a radio show, and we invited him to come on, and he didn't and never got back with me. So, I mean, I don't know.
Well, we've invited him on our show as well. We would still like to have him on. I think he's a good man. We'll see how the chips fall. Joe Hubbard's a fighter, and he's not gonna just walk away quietly. He's gonna make this a race to deal with. I want to come back to Mike Hubbard for a second. You know, Mike is the most powerful politician in Alabama because he's Speaker of the House.
Right.
Do you think he'll be Speaker of the House when we come back in February?
I don't know. There's a lot of rumblings out there. There's a lot of people that are positioning themselves to make a run for it. It'll be interesting to watch.
What do you think, Barron?
I don't think you could say one way or the other. I'm leaning towards no, strongly leaning towards no. I would put the percentage chance less than 10% that Mike Hubbard's our next speaker.
What about you, Jack?
You know, it depends on what happens in Lee County. I think he's been touting the fact that it's a witch hunt. We'll see if nothing comes of this grand jury. I think he sails back in there. If something does, he's in a tough spot.
I don't think Mike Hubbard will ever be Speaker of the Alabama House again. That's my prediction. You've been watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. You can catch us every day at alreporter.com and every Sunday on your ABC affiliate throughout the state. Thanks for watching, and have a nice Sunday.
We had a little McLaughlin moment. You catch that?
No.
What do you think? What do you think? What do you think?
Yeah,
You're wrong. He will not be Speaker.